Hey, it's Bill from the Bill Simmons podcast. FIFA World Cup 26 fans, listen up. Is the official beer sponsor of the FIFA World Cup 26. Michelob Ultra is giving away $1 million worth of FIFA World Cup 26 tickets and prizes. Enter now at michelobultra.com/superior access/FIFA World Cup 26. Michelob Ultra FIFA World Cup 26 superior access. No purchase necessary. Open U.S. residents 21 plus begins on December 1st, 2025. Ends on July 31st, 2026. Multiple entry periods. Visit www.michelobultra.com/superior access/FIFA World Cup 26 for free entry deadlines, prizes, and details.
Are all batteries the same? That's like asking if all soccer players are the same. Take Messi, the most decorated player ever. Is there any other player who has achieved that? No, just him. Now take Duracell. Is there any other battery with power boost ingredients inside? No, just Duracell. Remember, goats only trust goats because they're built different. And Messi only trusts Duracell.
Welcome into 49ers Access. My name is Sterling Bennett. In honor of Brock Purdy being named number 85 on the NFL's Top 100, I thought, what better timing than to do my annual NFL starting quarterback tier ranker, going by each team and ranking every single starting quarterback and some backups in the NFL to figure out where Brock Purdy ranks and where your favorite quarterback ranks according to me and my own tier list. Drop your thoughts on the tier list down below. Tell me where I'm right. Tell me where I'm wrong. Don't forget to add us or follow us on social media at 49ers_access is the X or Twitter. 49ers.access is the Instagram. This is open for discussion, debate. Drop those thoughts in the YouTube chat as well. And as always, today's show is sponsored by SeatGeek. More on them later on in today's show. But this is my favorite, or at least one of my favorite shows we do every single year because NFL quarterback rankings are often volatile. Sometimes people can get angry. If your favorite quarterback is not where you believe they are ranked, you want to shake your fist, maybe say some not so kind words at the ranker, and of course, give your opinions and thoughts on it as well. And we all have our favorite quarterbacks, but I'm trying to be as non-biased as possible. I want to come across as nonpartisan, and I want to hopefully give what I can do best, and that is my opinion that is swayed neither left nor right on each quarterback by just facts and simple things we can see on our screens every single Sunday throughout the NFL season. Without further ado, let's bring up the tier ranker. And this year, I figured we'd do some different types of tiers. Of course, we're going to have our elites. Those are the top 4 or 5 guys we know that they are going to be on their game and change the game every single weekend. The next tier just below elite is great, but in parentheses, it says puts the team on their back. These are guys we've seen more often than not be able to carry a team, carry an offense to victory when maybe things around them aren't as pristine as they could be. The third tier is our good tier, but in parentheses, carried more often than not. These are good quarterbacks that mostly every single week or throughout the majority of the NFL season, they're going to help you win football games. Some days, they're the difference maker in the win. Some Sundays, the defense is doing the heavy lifting, or so are the offensive weaponry. But good quarterbacks, nonetheless, no spite there. Just maybe you aren't the most important piece to your team winning and losing. Our fourth tier is volatile veterans, guys that, maybe are in year 3 of their rookie deal, or guys that are in the late stages of their NFL careers, and you just don't really know what they're going to bring to the table. Some of these guys have had phenomenal 1 years, but questionable year 2s. Other guys have had really great careers, but maybe the ceiling isn't as high as it once was, and the floor is much lower than it used to be. Our fifth tier of the day is the promising prospect tier. This is saved for year one, year two QBs that I believe have much more to offer than what their first or second years had shown us. You may even find some of this year's rookie class involved in this as well. There also is one quarterback in this tier that honestly may not play for 3 seasons, and one that has played but is still so young and is getting his first chance to start that I think will be a promising prospect and belongs in this tier excuse me. Then we have our second to last tier, that being serviceable. This one's pretty self-explanatory. Guys that you don't love, maybe some Sundays you hate, but they don't really offer you much of a ceiling. They don't make much of an impact in the positive part of the spectrum, but they're placeholders. They're guys that, for a year or two, well, you're trying to build something else when they're long gone. But with them there now, you're like, I don't love it, but I certainly can do worse, even if it isn't that much worse. Our last tier, though, that is our trash tier. Guys that have either aged out and can't do it anymore, or young quarterbacks that simply have never lived up to their potential and maybe getting a chance because who knows why. Guys that you just don't believe in if they are your starting quarterback whatsoever. And I think a lot of guys in that tier will be found to be young guys that had this, next great quarterback prospect label, but never lived up to it. A lot of first-round draft picks in that tier. But let's kick things off with number one. And what I am labeling as, and it pains me to say this, the best quarterback in the NFL, bar none, that being Los Angeles Rams quarterback Matthew Stafford. Hard to argue with Matthew Stafford being the best quarterback in football. Just won the MVP. He has one Super Bowl to his name. Darn near went to a second one last season with the Rams. And I think despite the age getting up there, this dude is just a wizard in the pocket. He manipulates defenses so well. While he can't scramble very well, maybe he isn't as gritty and can take the hits he once was, this dude fights all the time. He plays injured consistently and may have the best arm talent in football, not from the strength perspective, albeit it's still up there, but as somebody that if he's under center for you, you feel like he gives you the best chance to win every single week. He's older. Don't care. Dude is a wizard. It helps to have Sean McVay. It helps to have Puka Nacua for sure, but Stafford was lighting it up without those guys as his receiver and head coach. So Matthew Stafford, as a Niner fan, got to give you credit, brother. I wish you were one of ours. But Matthew Stafford is simply phenomenal as a quarterback. He is the best quarterback in football. I don't think anybody else can touch him, but that doesn't mean there aren't other elite quarterbacks in the league, and many of them may have better physical attributes. That's why I'm putting Buffalo Bills quarterback Josh Allen as my second-ranked quarterback in this year's tier ranking. Look, Josh Allen's incredible. I know there's too many interceptions at times. I know there are big game losses under his belt, and sometimes and maybe even coming into this year, it's how long can you do this before you start to question, can you actually do this in the playoffs? They should have won last year against the Broncos. He fell apart in that game. Again, too many turnovers, too many INTs, but there is a reason this dude is consistently in those spots. And it's probably despite the running game, or at least more so of the receivers. James Cooks is great, but the receivers have been rather piss poor the last couple of years. The defense has struggled mightily in the playoffs. There's a reason why Sean McDermott got fired, and it's not because Josh Allen played bad. And Josh Allen did play bad come playoff time, but McDermott has been a problem. He's now gone. We'll see what the adjustments are made for Josh Allen, but this dude has already more rushing touchdowns than Cam Newton does in his career. This dude is a specimen on the offensive side. I would not be shocked at some point in time he finishes with 4,000 passing yards and 1,000 rushing yards in a season. This guy is so dynamic. He's a massive difference maker and maybe one of the biggest X factors for an offense that really hasn't had one through the air the last couple of seasons. Josh Allen is my number 2 quarterback in the NFL. He would be number one if he can just get over the hump, but right now it's a big question mark looming over Josh Allen's head. My number 3 quarterback, though, on a very similar plane to Josh Allen. Multiple MVPs, but just hasn't been able to win the big one, even when he has Derrick Henry and other maybe good enough weapons on offense, but it's rarely ever Lamar Jackson's fault. That's why he is my quarterback number 3. I don't think there is a fall off from him in my rankings from last year. If there is, it's like from 2 to 3, which is not that big enough to even warrant discussing. But Lamar Jackson's awesome. He's somebody who you've seen grow so much. He is, like Josh Allen, one of the biggest X factors in football. And I think when you ask other head coaches in most years or in previous years, maybe the last decade or so, what's the quarterback archetype you look for? They'd all say Mahomes. I think that has changed. You can go back to when the Niners drafted Trey Lance, although it failed. When they asked Kyle Shanahan, what are you trying to do here? He said, I want Drew Brees mixed with Lamar Jackson. He didn't say Mahomes. He didn't say Josh Allen. And that was 5 years ago now. But the point still stands. You have one of the best offensive play callers in football saying Lamar Jackson is the archetype quarterback in football. He has a great arm. He's pretty accurate. He can beat you on the ground like nobody else can in the entire league. He'll make guys miss. Yes, there's some injuries there, and those are concerning, but Lamar Jackson is far and away a top 3 quarterback in football. And for a guy that, including myself, had questions of what he can do in the NFL coming out of Louisville, he has not only buried them, he has shot them, he has nuked them, he has put those suckers to the fire and essentially incinerated every single maybe negative thought or knock somebody wanted to have on his game outside of winning the big one. Like Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson is my number 3 quarterback in the NFL. My number 4 quarterback, normally he is most people's number 1 quarterback. I have Patrick Mahomes. Now, I contemplated having Mahomes a little lower on the list because if you look at the numbers, Patrick Mahomes has not been the Mahomes that we've come to know and in some cases love and hate since he came into the NFL in 2018, excuse me. Since he took over in Kansas City, we have known Mahomes to be the next great quarterback, right? He has a handful of Super Bowl championships under his belt already. He has, made the impossible look very easy. He has, made his gifts and talents transcend an already great offense with Andy Reid calling plays out there in KC. But the last couple seasons, the defense has been doing some more of the heavy lifting. Now, it's not like he isn't doing them favors, but last couple years, now off an injury, you have to wonder, are we going to see a Mahomes-like drought similar to what Tom Brady had in the mid-2000s, where he won his rings early? We all said, oh my God, what can Tom Brady become? And now he's the greatest quarterback of all time. But there was about 8 to 10 year gap in between Super Bowl championships. Now, there was some losses mixed in, so I'm not saying Mahomes won't go back or won't be in the top, echelon of quarterbacks for the next decade. But I do think the crown has slipped out of his hands when it comes to best quarterback in the league. He held it for a handful of years. He can certainly win that back as soon as this season. But right now, Mahomes is my number 4 quarterback. The numbers have slipped. The play has slipped. Now he's injured. I'm almost hoping he does not prove me wrong and earn back that title, but it's really hard to bet against a quarterback like Patrick Mahomes because, my God, this dude is special, but hasn't been as special the last couple seasons, including 2024 and 25, and we'll see what he is in 2026. My last quarterback, though, that belongs in the elite category for me, still, despite the injuries, despite the inconsistencies he has had, despite maybe a lot of the doubts we've had about what he can do and how long he can do it for, I have Joe Burrow as the final quarterback in the elite tier. Now, I would not push back if you disagree here. I completely understand you thinking or believing Joe Burrow, that guy's more hurt than Mahomes and Stafford has been. That guy has been more inconsistent than both those guys have been. Like, why is Mahomes at 4 and Burrow's at 5? That seems disrespectful to Mahomes. Look, man, when Joe Burrow's healthy, he's a difference maker. When Joe Burrow's healthy, there's very few quarterbacks you want under center for you in the league. And it pains me to watch him play in Cincinnati where they don't want to protect him. Yeah, he's got Jamar Chase and T. Higgins. That's fine. Yeah, he's got Chase Brown in the backfield. But you put Joe Burrow on a team that actually has you put Joe Burrow in Philadelphia with an offensive line that can actually protect him. You're looking at a multi-time MVP, a guy that maybe has won a championship or two at this point in time. This guy has been handed the worst possible deck of cards you can see from a franchise quarterback, maybe in the last 20 years or so. This guy has all the tools between the head, between the eyes, with the arm, the legs. This guy just gets it, and he plays football at one of the best rates we've seen. He just can't stay healthy. So I think of those 5 guys, Joe Burrow is easily one that I can debate and say maybe he's in the great tier. Maybe he's in the good tier. Maybe he's in the volatile veterans tier of guys that you may get elite play for 5 weeks, then he's out for the rest of the season. Those are all honest and very true questions to have about Joe Burrow. But I have to go with my gut and say when he's healthy, Joe Burrow was far and away a top 5 quarterback in the NFL. Okay, that finishes the elite tier of the 2026 NFL starting quarterback tier ranker. And that brings us to the great puts the team on their back tier. These are guys that I think are fantastic quarterbacks, guys that if you don't have an elite guy, all of these guys can still win a Super Bowl, and I would not be shocked. All these guys, to me, are ones you do everything possible to protect, to put as the franchise piece and cornerstone player of your offense. And this is where I think we're going to kick things off with, maybe to most Niner fans and maybe those on social media, a pick that people don't want to hear. I think Dallas Cowboys quarterback Dak Prescott belongs as the number 6 quarterback in the NFL and the first quarterback on my great tier. Look, I get it, right? Dak has never won a playoff game. The Dallas Cowboys are clowned. It's, wow, all these regular season stats and no postseason success. I get it. It's all there. But if you give me Dak Prescott with George Pickens and CeeDee Lamb, and even a, let's say, lesser than last year Devontae Williams, I think Dak Prescott might be a dark horse for the MVP this season. Maybe to you, they're empty stats and mean nothing unless you win a playoff game. I can't argue there. Those are all true statements. But I do think Dak Prescott is a really good quarterback that people often overlook because of the lack of postseason success. We'll see what Schottenheimer can do in year 2 as Dallas's head coach. We'll see what the offense looks like in 2026. But, for as bad as Dallas was last year, it wasn't because of the offense. Dak played out of his mind last season. And really since 2021, Dak Prescott has been an underrated quarterback that often gets mocked, ridiculed for the team failing around him compared to himself. Has there been bad games? Yes. Has there been issues? Yes. But Dak has rarely been the main problem in Dallas. And I think Dak Prescott, and we'll see it this year, if he stays healthy, with Pickens and Lamb out there wide receiver, looking at 4,000 plus passing yards, 36 touchdowns, maybe creeping towards 40 total touchdowns on the season. And you'll look at it and say, wow, the Dallas Cowboys won the NFC East. Why? Because Dak Prescott was so good this season. I know Niner fans are going to hate to hear that. That is their rival. No one likes the Dallas Cowboys. I understand it, but I do want to give credit where it's due. And I believe Dak is one of the better quarterbacks in the NFL, deserving of being in the great tier. The next guy. And I've debated who belongs next. And I don't think, as the last pick, I'm going to make Niner fans very happy. And I want to preface this by saying that a lot of these guys are interchangeable. That, just like the elite tier, one Sunday, Stafford could be the guy. Then it's Allen. Then it's Jackson. Then it's Mahomes. Then it's Burrow. Like, these guys, though, are different types of quarterbacks. The next tier, though, are guys that I think from Dak to the end, any given Sunday, this tier is interchangeable. Now, I'll let you know when there is a clear-cut difference in the room, but I have Jordan Love as my number 7 quarterback in the league. Now, Niner fans, I'm sure, are saying, you have Jordan Love ahead of Brock Purdy? I think a lot of that stems from Brock Purdy beating Jordan Love in the playoffs. Can't argue there. A lot of this stems from Jordan Love's quote-unquote boneheaded mistakes. However, go back and look what the Packers were last year. Go look back, at how Jordan Love played last year without Christian Watson for a large part of the season, without Jaden Reed for a large part of the season, with Josh Jacobs not being the Josh Jacobs you come to know the last couple of years, and without Matthew Golden for a large part of last season. Jordan Love was a major difference maker in the Packers being a competent team or a terrible team. Jordan Love was tremendous last year. And I think he gets mocked because of maybe not the biggest playoff wins or some boneheaded mistakes and some terrible timing in them. And all those are true. But I do think if you watched Packer games last season, you'd realize Jordan Love was actually playing closer to elite than he was good football. That may get some flack. I understand it. But I think the way Jordan Love's play is very composed. I just think he was an elevating force for that Packers team who lost Micah Parsons through the halfway portion of the season. And still, Jordan Love was playing fantastic football. He didn't have the majority of his receivers out there and was playing fantastic football. Jordan Love, to me, is a difference-making quarterback that, because he plays in Green Bay, and he isn't Brett Favre, but he isn't Aaron Rodgers, and makes maybe some more questionable throws that he shouldn't at times, I think people see the highlights on social media, see the lowlights on social media, and say, oh, Jordan Love's an idiot. Jordan Love, what are you doing? But when push comes to shove, Jordan Love is usually out there winning football games and being the reason because Green Bay is getting it done. So, like Dak Prescott, not many big playoff wins under his belt. There are some moments you want to go, ooh, yikes, what are you doing? But overwhelmingly, I think Jordan Love is firmly in the great tier of quarterbacks. It is my number 7 quarterback entering into the 2026 NFL season. I do want to pause here, though, to remind you, if you want to see Brock Purdy and the rest of these NFL quarterbacks, use our promo code 49ers Access, 49 ERS ACCESS at SeatGeek.com to save yourself $20 off your first purchase. That is 49 ERS ACCESS at SeatGeek.com. The World Cup's in full swing. The NBA is going crazy in free agency. Insane trades. Where's LeBron going to go? You want to see him in 2026, 2027? Get your tickets at SeatGeek.com. And more importantly, you want to see your San Francisco 49ers live and in person at Levi Stadium. That's where you want to go. SeatGeek.com, $20 off. Promo code 49ers Access. Okay, back to the tier ranker, because I'm going to get you chirping here. I'm going to get the haters chirping. I'm going to get the lovers chirping. And at my number 8 spot, firmly inside the top 10, I have former Mr. Irrelevant, the leader of the San Francisco 49ers offense, Brock, put the team on his back, Purdy, as the number 8 quarterback in the NFL entering this year. You look at what Brock Purdy did down the stretch of 2025. came back off the turf toe injury and led this Niners offense that didn't really have Ricky Pearsall, that didn't have, as we all know now, Brandon Ayuk for obvious reasons, that had a hindered Juwan Jennings, that had Christian McCaffrey who couldn't average more than 3.6 yards a carry because the offensive line was so bad. That was the literal driving force of their offense, not only losing just one game in the second half of the season, but Brock Purdy outpaced or narrowly underpaced Bo Nix in his entire season output throughout his last 9 games in 2025. Brock Purdy was out there doing things almost by himself, winning shootouts because his defense was so bad, having to score 35, 45 points a game to actually help San Francisco win, and was far and away the best quarterback on the field nearly every game he played in. That includes Jalen Hurts. That includes, even at sometimes, Sam Darnold. We'll get to Sam soon. But Phillip Rivers. That includes some bad teams like the Cardinals and Cam Ward and Brissett and whatnot. But also includes somebody who you also see very soon, maybe even next on this list, Caleb Williams. And you can argue Brock has beaten Dak Prescott in the playoffs. He's beaten Jordan Love in the playoffs. Brock has made Dak and Love look foolish at times. He's made you question, is Brock a top 5 quarterback? Is Brock a top 6 quarterback? Second best QBR in football last year upon his return. I am tired of people hating on Brock Purdy simply because he's small, simply because of Kyle Shanahan being the head coach and the play caller. Well, yes, he's great at doing those things. Yes, having Shanahan call plays certainly helps, as it does Stafford with McVay. And you can tell me, well, you haven't seen Purdy without Kyle Shanahan. You're right. But I've seen Purdy without a number 1 and number 2 wide receiver, and having Malik Turner play in playoff games, and having an offensive line that can't block for him, having a running game, despite name value in the backfield not being successful for the majority of 2025, yet still win games. I've seen Brock Purdy with Kendrick Bourne and Demarcus Robinson as receiver 2 and 3 go into Philadelphia and beat a very vaunted Philadelphia Eagles defense with Cooper DeJean and a nasty front 7 and guys that never gave San Francisco a chance. Sure, I've seen Purdy make mistakes. He has to cut down on the turnovers. That is undeniable. But when Purdy's on his game, there is a real conversation to be had. He may be a top 5 quarterback in football. Now, because there are some mistakes, because there are some turnovers, and he doesn't have the biggest arm. He doesn't have, this amazing Lamar Jackson type speed. He gets knocked down a peg. But you cannot deny Brock Purdy has done everything right since the day he took the field in 2022 against the Miami Dolphins. He's won 30 games. They've only lost 15 with him at the helm, and the majority of those are not even his fault. There's missed game-winning field goals. There's terrible defensive play. There's massive drops where Brock Purdy's dotting dudes up, and they just can't bring it down. I'm not here to glaze Brock Purdy. There are mistakes. He's done some negative plays. It's undeniable as well. But more often than not, Brock Purdy is carrying and has elevated the San Francisco 49ers offense from Jimmy Garoppolo, from Trey Lance, to Brock Purdy. There is a massive step up. It is a 2-step up process, going from serviceable, maybe volatile, veteran-type quarterbacks in Garoppolo to Brock Purdy. Those that want to put him with the Kirk Cousins and whatnot are simply wrong. Purdy is a fantastic quarterback that has taken one of the best offenses in football to new heights with him as quarterback. So Brock Purdy, to me, entering 2026 with some injury concerns, maybe not the biggest arm talent, but is still hitting dudes downfield consistently and making big plays, is my number 8 quarterback entering the 2026 campaign. That brings me to the guy Brock Purdy beat at home in primetime football, that being Caleb Williams of the Chicago Bears. And I debated, do I put Caleb ahead of Brock or Jordan Love ahead of Brock? I think a lot of people would say Caleb had the better season. There was more ups and downs maybe, but he won big games. His throw against the Rams in the playoffs in the snow at Soldier Field, we all said, holy crap. Caleb is on another level. And I think come season end, if it goes how last year went and this same trajectory remains, he'll be a top 5 quarterback entering next year. Caleb Williams was the number 1 overall draft pick for a reason. Yeah, the fingernail stuff may bother you. As long as you win football games, that's all that matters. This dude is strong. He's gritty. You cannot sack this sucker, even if you try to bring 13 dudes in that backfield. He is slippery as can be. This dude is evasive, he's elusive, and he makes defenders look foolish on a consistent basis. Got a cannon for an arm. And if really you wanted to swap Joe Burrow and Caleb Williams here, tier-wise, I wouldn't push back too much, but because it's one season of success where Jordan Love's had a couple more, Purdy's had 2 or 3 more, Dak's had more, I wanted to pump the brakes, but I do want to give respect for clear physical talent on the field. And Caleb Williams certainly has that. We'll see what 2026 holds. Rome Odunze, DJ Moore is now gone. They got Luther Burden out there, who they look to be trying to make the next star wide receiver. Got a handful of tight ends, good running back room. It's not like he doesn't have a good offense around him. Ben Johnson's calling plays. And I think Chicago is nearing, I don't want to say Super Bowl contender status, but definitely like legitimate playoff contender. Can knock somebody off you aren't expecting, because they should have beat the Rams last year in the playoffs, and they blew it. And I would not be shocked if they get a second go round in 2026. They are not, maybe one of the 2 final NFC teams remaining because of how good Caleb Williams is. And this dude is clutch as well. He carries, man. It's all respect for Caleb Williams. The next guy, though, is, he's my number 10 quarterback. And I know I'm probably going to get some flack because he hasn't really done anything. There's bad playoff losses there. There's some really terrible seasons involved. There is some carrying involved. He doesn't have the best offense around him. He isn't the best system of offense to play in, or at least it wasn't with Greg Roman calling plays. But Justin Herbert, to me, still is on the precipice of being a top 10 quarterback. And I think with me wanting to give Drake May a little bit more time, I think Justin Herbert is the 10th best quarterback in football. I do think there's a lot to sit back and say, can you actually get it done? He hasn't played great come playoff time. It was really bad last year in the playoffs. And you're just like, dude, like, you have all the traits, all the tools. You have a good head coach now that can actually motivate you. And hopefully they put some more players in place for him to actually succeed. And it's not just Lab McConkey and, Quentin Johnston. Those guys are good. Like, one of them is really good, but you need more. Give me tight end. Hopefully Rondé Gradson can be a good year 2 player for them. Showed signs last year. Hopefully they can get some more production from the backfield. And hopefully they can get into an offensive scheme that actually makes Herbert and offers Herbert the ability to become the superstar I think is in there. Now, it comes in spurts. It comes in waves. It isn't consistent, but Herbert has been the reason why the Chargers have been more than competent the last couple of years, and a big reason why they are in the playoffs. Now, he's also a reason they lose in the playoffs, but I do think he hasn't really been given the team to jump in there and actually win a lot of good games or beat good opponents. But the next guy, already said his name. That is your MVP runner-up, Drake May. Drake May was fantastic last year. I thought he was a player that, despite not having the best offense around him, it was Josh McDaniel, who we've seen be a terrible head coach, but a good OC wants to get back, once he returns to New England. It was Stephon Diggs, and that's kind of it. Kayshon Boutte showed flashes at times. Pop Douglas was mixed in here or there. Traven Henderson really couldn't find a consistent, touch in the backfield. And so, despite that, this dude takes a terrible Patriots team 2 years ago now, all the way to the Super Bowl. Now, he was terrible. He sucked. One of the worst performances ever for a Lombardi trophy. But he played the best defense in football. young quarterback, overwhelmed, the lights got too bright. I don't think that's a problem for me. People can say, well, he failed. I can say, well, it was year 2. That's a bright future ahead of me. Is 3 more years as a Patriot, and likely more ahead if he continues to play as good as he did last year. They got him A.J. Brown. They're surrounding him with more talent in that room. And I really believe Drake May is going to pass up Herbert this year, and maybe even Dak Prescott with the big old, tier list swap going on here. I think you can see Williams and May jump up higher and higher. You can see guys like Prescott and Burrow fall further and further down. But that's because they're young. Williams and May are coming into year 3. A lot to like there from those two quarterbacks. And to me, May, I think he outperformed the expectation. Does that set yourself up for a letdown in year 3? Maybe. Hard to get back to a Super Bowl, but I do think the Patriots have found their next, legitimate cornerstone quarterback. And you'll see a former one on here later, that being Mac Jones. But I think Drake May is a top 11 quarterback and is right on the bubble of the top 10. Year 3. What do you have in store? Probably a lot of great things for Drake May ahead of us. But the top of the next tier, that being good, but carried more often than not, I'm going to have former number 1 overall pick in 2021. I believe the only quarterback drafted in round 1 to still be on the team that picked them, that being Jacksonville Jaguars quarterback Trevor Lawrence. It's been an up and down road for Trevor Lawrence. It's been not so great. Urban Meyer, it's been okay. Doug Peterson gets over there and they have some fun and they get a lot done. They almost beat the Patriots a couple years ago. Then Doug Peterson's gone, and here comes Liam Cohen. And I love the way Lawrence fits in the offense. I'm a firm believer that year 2, quarterback's more comfortable. Maybe they find a way to integrate Travis Hunter more into the offense. Hopefully get, a guy they believe can be a two-way player mixed in throughout games and help Trevor Lawrence out. They lose Travis Etienne. We'll see what the backfield looks like in 2026. But I think Trevor Lawrence is in for another step up in his production if you are simply basing it off what 2025 had for us. I think, yes, look, there are times Trevor Lawrence simply isn't accurate. He just misses the easy throws. He misses guys open downfield. And you're like, oh my God, we were told you were going to be Andrew Luck and Peyton Manning, and you're just Trevor Lawrence. You're a good quarterback.
This episode is brought to you by Accenture. When your advertising operations fall out of sync, everything else follows. Spotify and Accenture are working together to reinvent the rhythm of ad sales, using automation, analytics, and smarter workflows to simplify campaign delivery and access better data across the business. The result? Less time spent on operations, more time connecting brands with the moments and fandoms that matter most. Learn more at Accenture.com/Spotify.
And those are the big knocks on his game. Hasn't won a playoff game, really. Or if he has, it's, a couple of years ago. It's not recent. We all have recency bias, right? There hasn't been a track record of winning, if you will. And the inaccuracies are evident. That's why I don't have him on the same tier as Drake May, Herbert, Williams, Love, Purdy, and Prescott. He doesn't belong there yet. There needs to be a more consistent output of great play, where you're not being carried by amazing running backs. You're not being carried by a really good defense or an average defense. You're not making critical mistakes in key parts of the game. Can you find your mechanics more consistently? Can you find and reach, down deep and become a great quarterback? If you do that, Trevor Lawrence is going to have the Jaguars in a place to be an AFC South contender every single year. Like, he is far and away the best quarterback in the division right now. And it's not even close, in my opinion. So I have Trevor there. I think he is carried more than you'd like, but I do think in year 2 of that system, maybe he graduates from a tier 3 quarterback to a tier 2 quarterback, but he's like right there. He's right below Drake May, inching towards great, but need more consistency from T-Law. The next guy, who I do think played really good football last year, who I do think deserves a ton of respect, who I believe likely has played his best football. And that is Sam Darnold of the reigning, this pains me to say, Super Bowl champion Seattle Seahawks. Sam Darnold and JSN were just like, last year was special. It was special. I mean, you take peanut butter and chocolate, and it was like, oh my God. When there's, like, Darnold was accurate, didn't turn the ball over, took shots downfield. Yes, there was a part of the season where down the stretch, you started to see cracks form. You started to see, Vikings playoff Sam Darnold. We all had questions of, what does he look like come playoff time? Is he going to turn to a pumpkin again? It's possible. It's possible. And he bucked that trend. He's somebody that took the bull by the horns and proved doubters wrong. Former first-round draft pick, top 5 pick, top 10 pick, Jets, Jacksonville, terrible, or Jets and Carolina, terrible organizations. Went to San Francisco, got rehabilitated. He'll tell you that himself. Went to Minnesota, another great system, played good enough. And you can see the gradual steps of, he went from a bad quarterback, bad system, maybe a bust, to a good backup, borderline starter, to a playoff caliber quarterback, now to a Super Bowl winning quarterback. But within that, within all the good, all the positive, it's hard to ignore how great Kenneth Walker and Zach Charbonnet were last year. Hard to ignore having JSN be your wide receiver one. Like, you can't just, that's there. It exists, and the best defense in football, far and away. Keeping opposing offenses held to, in San Francisco's case, no touchdowns in a playoff game. And keeping other offenses that are great. The Rams offense was great, holding them to somewhat at bay to allow there to be no panic, settle in, play clean, easy football, and let other guys do the dirty work for you. And I'm not saying Sam's not good. Sam's a good quarterback, hence why he's in the good tier. But when you give a quarterback the best defense in football, the offensive player of the year, two of the best, or one of the best running back duos in football last season, that isn't to say you aren't playing good football. Sam has the arm, he has the accuracy, but there are cracks where I think in 2026, while there was great play last year, maybe it's a prediction for me, but I do think, you are going to see Sam struggle somewhat. There is always the hangover. Now, can the defense save that? Maybe. Can the defense keep games close for Seattle? Probably. They're a great defense, but they lost a lot of pieces last year during free agency or this year in free agency, and Kenneth Walker and company. Charbonnet is going to be post-ACL surgery. What does Jerian Price look like? We've seen in recent seasons it takes young running backs sometimes to get acclimated. Ashton Genty being a big one. And, I just question, what does Sam Darnold look like post-winning a Super Bowl, post-losing some offensive weaponry? And if he's the one that has to drop back 35 to 40 times a game, can he consistently be great? There were times, but I think he was carried more often than Seattle fans want to admit. It doesn't matter because they won a Super Bowl, but that is, I think, a true statement to say that Sam Darnold did benefit a lot from the things around him. The next quarterback, kind of in the same tier, or literally in the same tier, but almost the exact same discussion. That is Denver Broncos quarterback Bo Nix. Bo Nix, Broncos, Cortland Sutton. Great defense around them, kept them in games at times. Was the reason they won a lot of the times, the majority of the time. And Bo Nix, I think, benefited like Darnold from that. Now, they brought in Jalen Waddle. They brought in some more pieces around him. We'll see what Bo Nix looks like in 2026, how the offense operates. Now he has two good receivers in Sutton and Waddle. And I think you can see Nix maybe get out of, the kind of good tier, non-transcendent QB to maybe fighting for a spot towards the top of the tier or the bottom of the great tier. But I just haven't been wowed by Bo Nix. And I think that's what it comes down to. He's off a serious injury. And that kind of knocks him down a peg of, the unknown of, what you're going to look like and how do you recover from that. Maybe you see it linger. I hope not for Bo Nix's case and for the Broncos case, but really Bo Nix and Darnold were set to face each other in the Super Bowl. It would have been almost the exact same teams. Personnel is different, sure, but it's the number one defense against number two defense against two quarterbacks that really don't wow you too much. There are plays here or there, but that game would have been like 10-13. First team to double digits wins, right? Or game-winning field goal because nobody can score a touchdown. I just think Bo Nix and Sam Darnold may be two peas in the same pod. They're good quarterbacks. They can win you football games. In Darnold's case, win you a Super Bowl. In Nix's case, probably should have been playing in it had he not got hurt, giving Jared Stidham a start in the AFC title game. But really, the defense did the majority of the heavy lifting last year in most of their games. And finally, rounding out the good tier, I have a quarterback that has won a lot that I think most teams maybe wouldn't love as their quarterback, but utterly changed the way this fan base gets to enjoy football. And that is Jared Goff of the Detroit Lions. I think right now, the tiers look pretty accurate. I think if you asked anybody, pick your quarterback, it looked like this. Maybe there is a little bit of difference here or there. Drake May's probably higher. Purdy's a little lower to some people. Maybe Herbert's a little lower. But I think tier-wise, Lawrence, Darnold, Nix, and Jared Goff all feel like the exact same quarterback. They'll win you big games in the regular season. They'll have big games of 4 to 5 touchdowns. They'll throw the ball deep downfield. Maybe less or so Lawrence and the other three guys, but they are dudes that will win you 10 games a season. They'll keep you in most of the games. They'll keep you afloat throughout the years, but maybe aren't the biggest difference maker in those wins. Now, Jared Goff, I think at times has shown to be a better quarterback than the three guys ahead of him in the good tier. But last year, Jared Goff did struggle at times. There were some issues at times. Now, that can be summed up to the Lions not having a great year. There being some injuries in place. There being other off-the-field issues in place. Looking at you, Jameson Williams. But I think Goff is certainly past his prime, but he still has a big arm. But he also make mistakes. He'll be the reason the Lions do lose games at times. But he'll also be the reason they get back in games after his mistakes. You go watch games against the Vikings and Lions last year, Goff looks lost at times. And you're just like, dude, you can't lose a game like this. The Lions missed the playoffs not simply because of Goff, but because he wasn't good enough to carry them to the playoffs. Whereas quarterbacks like Caleb Williams and Drake May and Justin Herbert and Brock Purdy were. And Darnold got carried there. Nix got carried there, or for the most part carried there. Lawrence got carried there. Jared Goff, like the other three guys, good quarterback, but he is, I think, a middle-of-the-pack quarterback now at this point in time. He isn't top 10 Jared Goff. He isn't top 12 Jared Goff. I think Jared Goff sits firmly more towards closer to 15 and 14 than, let's say, 8 or 10. That makes the most sense to me. And I do think he is ahead of the volatile veteran group because Goff is more consistent than those guys, where those guys can give you elite play 1 week and then be the worst quarterback in football the next. Goff, to me, is a level of consistency ahead of our fourth tier in today's quarterback tier ranking. And the first quarterback in the volatile veteran tier is probably going to piss off some people because I myself had this quarterback ranked really high last year coming into the season. And this dude was hurt. And when he was healthy, he didn't play great football. And he has been in the news a lot, although it's not him that is making the news. It's somebody else that wants to play with him that is making headlines for him. That being Washington Commanders quarterback Jayden Daniels. And I want to be clear here. I think Jayden Daniels is a special transcendent talent. I think he has the arm, the legs. This dude has it all to be a fantastic cornerstone franchise quarterback. But unlike The other two guys drafted ahead of him or near him in Williams and May, they had transcendent and ascending year twos. Daniels didn't have that. He had a really fantastic year one. And we all said, watch out, Washington has got their guy. I put him in the top 10 of last year's quarterback tier ranking. But now, I don't know what year 3 holds for him. Terry McLaurin's in place there. Maybe they'll get Brandon Ayuk. Who knows? I don't care. But there is reason to believe in the Commanders, mainly because Jaden Daniels is back. But are you going to get year 1, Jaden? If you do, watch out. You're going to get year 2, Jaden. Injuries, they linger. He comes back, he's injured. He comes back, he's injured. He's come back, he's injured. It's just, I've seen it for a year, then I didn't see it for a year. That to me is volatile. If Jaden comes back and is just a good quarterback, awesome. I want to see Jaden Daniels play football next year because he was tremendous as a rookie. But was last year a sophomore slump, or was it things to come? I hope it's the former. I hope it's a one-off and he comes back and he's awesome. But right now, unlike May and Williams, I just don't know what Jaden Daniels I'm going to get. If he plays, fantastic, but he feels like a social media darling compared to what actually matters of playing the games, being productive. Now, it's only year 3. Young quarterback, a lot can change. But I got to see that on the field for 18 weeks to go, okay, Jaden Daniels threw for 3,400 yards and he scored 30 touchdowns and he was electric on the ground. Do what Jaden Daniels does best. But that was year 1. We all saw what happened last year. It was really, really, really bad. Like terrible. They had a top 10 pick for a reason because he couldn't stay healthy. So what does Jaden Daniels have in store? Coming into a 3-year vet, he is a volatile veteran. The next guy, this one to me, I think is abundantly clear. Some fans online didn't want to hear it come playoff time, got exposed in the divisional round. Or, no, wild card round. I have Jalen Hurts as the number 2 quarterback in the volatile veteran tier. And that makes him what? 5, 10, 15. That makes him the 17th ranked quarterback on or in my quarterback tier ranker. And look, Jalen Hurts has a ring. Jalen Hurts been to 2 Super Bowls. Jalen Hurts could easily have found himself in the good, carried more often than not tier. Oh, that's true. But also I watched Jalen Hurts last year. He wasn't great. He was a major reason they lost that playoff game against the San Francisco 49ers, which I don't know why Philadelphia Eagles fans are, it was the offensive coordinator, Kevin Patullo. You were playing a defense that had Eric Kendricks, who was signed off the couch in week 14, and Garrett Wallow, who was a practice squad waiver claim, starting at linebacker. You had Marquise Siegel, who was horrible for the majority of his rookie season with the 49ers playing starting safety. You had no Nick Bosa, no Michael Williams. You had Bryce Huff, who was not a 3-down player, playing 3 downs for you. You were getting beat by a defense that had Clellan Ferrell and 2 rookies that weren't even starting in the middle, and Alfred Collins and CJ West beating you in run defense. You had a defense that had Kalia Davis and Jordan Elliott starting for him on the interior, and you still lost. I'm sorry. You can blame the OC. I saw a quarterback that was gun-shy over the middle, refused to target the intermediate part of the defense, and a quarterback that couldn't handle the pressure of a diva-wide receiver. It got rattled and simply couldn't get it done. Does he have pedigree? Yes. He has a ring. Does he have 2 really good playoff runs? Yeah. But I also saw a defense do a lot of the work there. Now, the 2 Super Bowls Hurts has played, fantastic work. But regular season work also matters. Matter as much? Maybe not. But I do not think Jalen Hurts is even close to a top 10 quarterback. Your ring, yes, it's important. Yes, you have that. But without saying what the Eagles look like this year and basing it off of what last year was and maybe how the regular season was the last couple seasons, I do not think Jalen Hurts is even a top 15 quarterback. And I will plant my flag on it. Does Hurts have the ability to do so? Yes. He's got a big arm. He's a good, or at least was a good deep ball thrower. But also last year, he had some T-law to him of guys open downfield and just missing dudes, overthrowing guys. And I'm sorry, like that just can't happen for a guy that has a ring to his name, that wants to be considered top 10 guy, top 15 guy, or at least somebody that people consider in that category. I do not. I think you may get elite Jalen Hurts 5 weeks out of the year. And if those are the 5 biggest games, and so what, right? But if those are only 5 games of an 18-week schedule, and you're getting good to mid to average, below average sometimes, the other 12 weeks or so, it's not good enough. I think Hurts is more volatile on the field than good or great. And I don't think that's too crazy to say. Going quick here, next quarterback is Baker Mayfield. He is the epitome of volatile. He is elite for 2 weeks, then cold the next 5. Then elite the next 5 weeks, then cold the next 2. This dude cannot pick a freaking lane. And I love Baker. He's gritty. He's fun. He's a ball to watch. He's fantastic when he's on. Baker can be in the MVP conversation for a month and a half. Then all of a sudden you go, oh, I thought Baker Mayfield got hurt because I hadn't heard from him the last 2 months. But when he's on, he's on. The problem is it ain't always there. And I love Baker. He was much closer to top 10 last year than he is this year, but I think we know now who Baker Mayfield is in Tampa Bay. Fun dude. Can win you some games. Big arm. Throws it deep. This dude can make plays happen, but can you avoid that random month and a half stretch where it loses you the playoffs for Baker Mayfield? I don't know, but sure, a fun quarterback. Next guy on the list is Panthers quarterback Bryce Young. Look, man, Bryce Young has been god-awful for a large portion of his career. Number 1 overall draft pick, was meant to turn the Panthers around. And now we are seeing signs of that. The budding flower that could be Bryce Young. Somebody that likely should have beaten the Rams in the playoff last year. That is one of the most underrated clutch quarterbacks in football. A guy that can give, at times, some of the best quarterbacks in the league a run for their money. That includes Matthew Stafford. It includes Patrick Mahomes. Like, there are clear-cut signs of this dude is a number 1 overall pick for a reason. Then there's games where he has 120 passing yards and 2 interceptions. You're like, dude, what happened? Where'd you go? Like, you can't fluctuate between borderline out of the league to number 1 overall draft pick week by week. I like Bryce Young. I think the Panthers do have something there. Do I think he's the guy? I don't know. We'll see what this year holds for him, but he's kind of in the same category as the next quarterback, CJ Stroud. Both in the same tier for a reason. Volatile veterans, guys who have shown a lot of great things, but have never been able to put it on the field, on the film, consistently back-to-back seasons for 2 months at a time. Stroud, like Jaden Daniels, fantastic rookie season. Jumped off the film, and we said, holy crap, here comes Houston. Then you watched last year and said, holy crap, they got to get a new quarterback in place. Because that defense is too good to waste, and Stroud is wasting it. Young, Stroud, they've kind of crossed paths. If there is a chart, Stroud started off hot, and he's coming down slowly. And Young started off at the bottom, and it's starting to creep up slowly. So we are seeing one ascend and one descend, but it's, can you find that plane? Can you find a way to either tick back up, or just can find a place to just kind of chill? Can you be more consistent? Can you find a place to just be good? These guys have been elite, great at times. Other times they've been trash. And that's not where you want to be if you are. And if a quarterback, hence why these two teams, the Texans and the Panthers, are like, we like you, but maybe we're not ready to commit to you just yet as our franchise guy. Next quarterback in this tier is Daniel Jones. I wanted to put Jones in serviceable But in the context of the Shane Steichen offense, I think Daniel Jones, if he's healthy off the Achilles injury, which he may not be, we'll see, was one of the better quarterbacks in football last year. But there always seems to be Daniel Jones is good, but Daniel Jones was really good, but, and if there's a but in your name, there's a but involved in analyzing your play that to me lands you in the volatile tier. Because Jones was, for the first 8 weeks or so, 10 weeks or so, a nice quarterback. He was setting the Colts up for a playoff run. Deep or not, I don't know. We'll never know at this point in time. But he had the Colts in a spot where you said Jonathan Taylor, they have 3 receivers that can go out there and make some plays. Now Pittman's gone, but you have Pierce, you have Downs, you have Pittman, you have Taylor, you have Jones. That's a pretty nice offense. They have a B- tier quarterback, but hey, you're getting B tier quarterback play, but you have 3 good receivers, a good tight end in Tyler Warren, and an A+ elite running back in Taylor. That's good enough to win. But like I said, if there's a but, there's a problem. I think Jones is going to be this type of guy every year where you say, wow, what could be? Wow, just get in and see what happens, and he'll never truly ascend past that. But a guy that you don't hate as your quarterback, but somebody who you're like, we can do better, but maybe not somebody you're eager to move off of just yet. I think they overpaid the what to keep this guy, but one man's trash is somebody else's treasure. And after a year with the Vikings, the Colts view this guy as some treasure. And last year proved that if healthy, it can work out. But even at times last year, you were seeing some cracks in the armor. You were seeing a little bit of it not look as good as it was to begin. But nevertheless, I think Jones belongs in this tier through and through. The next guy, Kyler Murray. Former 2019 overall draft pick, never really given the offense to succeed with the Cardinals, now with the Vikings. And I don't think this offense fits him either, which is a weird signing for me. I don't think Kevin O'Connell's offense is a Kyler Murray-esque offense. I think it fits more of the Mac Jones, who you'll see very, very soon. Sam Darnold's the Shanahan-esque thing. I don't think Murray fits an offense like that. I think Murray fits more of the Liam Cohen offense that was in Tampa Bay, the Dave Canales offense now in Carolina. I don't think it fits Kevin O'Connell. That said, Murray can still run. He can still make plays. He is more dynamic than the majority of quarterbacks remaining on this list. You can make the case he is more dynamic than some of the quarterbacks ahead of him on this list. But again, I don't think he set himself up for success signing with the Vikings. You can say they have Jefferson and they have Addison and they have now Jawan Jennings. Those are legit weapons. That's true. But I don't think Murray is the guy you want looking over the middle of the football field saying, I want to throw in the numbers 10, 15 times a game. I think he's somebody you want on the boundary, making plays, running around, scrambling, doing things Murray does. As a Niner fan, I watched this guy crush our defense by simply being the gnat that just won't go away. And I don't think you can really do that in the O'Connell offense. Now, that said, like I was saying earlier, you can put him somewhere else, and I go, that makes sense. Had he been the backup for Mahomes instead of Justin Fields, I would be like, watch out. That's a guy that you let ride out for half a year and trade that guy for a draft pick because he proves to be fantastic. So I do like what Murray has. Yes, there's the Call of Duty jokes. Yes, there is the question marks of how much does he actually love football, and now you're on to your second team and a new system and everything. And those are all legit questions. It's worked out for some guys. You've seen some guys already said, it took Darnold 4 teams for it to finally click, right? And Murray can be the same guy. But I do think Murray has more in the tank than we've seen. But like other dudes in this tier, it's just he gets hurt too often. There's concerns of, do you really want to be here for 18 weeks and win football games? But look, I don't know. But we shall. Then I got a sneeze on the show. came out of nowhere, but thank you for indulging my sneeze. Which brings me to the last quarterback in the volatile veteran tier, which the sneeze may have been foreshadowing for the character this next quarterback is. That is Mac Jones. Mac Jones, to me, is somebody that I think on a Sunday can outperform Bryce Young and Stroud and Jones and Murray and Mayfield. And he's not going to transcend your offense, not going to lift it up. But even last year, we saw him operate in an offense and win football games. I think Mac Jones is more than a serviceable quarterback. I think he's a starting caliber quarterback. And I think although he lacks the offensive traits to be a promising prospect, now being much older than his former, near top 10 pick status was back in 2021, I think Jones is somebody that if you can have a Kevin O'Connell offense, you can have a Shanahan-esque offense, a McVay-style offense, although it's kind of shifted recent seasons, I think it works perfectly fine. I think Mac Jones can be a top 20 quarterback any given Sunday. I think Mac Jones can be a quarterback that wins you football games. Now, will he beat great teams? Probably not. But he did beat the Rams last year. That is worth noting. Now he got demolished by the Houston Texans, but with context, you realize why. But I think Mac Jones is a fun guy who you want to have in the room that can win you football games. But if you were to rank them, it probably wouldn't be your first choice, your second choice, maybe your 19th choice, maybe even your 25th choice. But last year in an offense, maybe believing there is a Sam Darnold-like resurgence for Mac Jones in his career. I do think you're going to see teams want him in the offseason when he's inevitably a free agent or the trade market come deadline day. But again, I don't think he's your 19th choice, but I think top 20, top 25, I think most teams wouldn't mind having Mac Jones. And I think he can find himself playing in the good tier, being carried more often than not, but also can find himself being a quarterback. You're like, we got to find somebody else because there isn't really much to offer outside of a nice, big-armed pocket passer. And those days are behind us, but that doesn't mean that those quarterbacks still can't get it done. Volatile on the field, far from volatile off the field. We love McCorkle, and so happy he's back in San Francisco in 2026. In 2025, I think proved to be a very important piece of San Francisco's offense, even as a backup quarterback. And I'm sure we'll get paid enough money to make him happy when he's a free agent after this season. But that brings us to the youngsters on the list, the promising prospects. And I'm going to put former number 1 overall draft pick, Titans QB Cam Ward here. Big arm, bad system last year. New regime's now in place. Robert Saleh's in there. They've kind of beat up that defense for him. They've gotten him some more weapons. I think Cornell Tate's now in Tennessee. They've got him some dudes. Okay.
When you need to build up your team to handle the growing chaos at work, use Indeed Sponsored Jobs. It gives your job post the boost it needs to be seen and helps reach people with the right skills, certifications, and more. Spend less time searching and more time actually interviewing candidates who check all your boxes. Listeners of this show will get a $75 sponsored job credit at Indeed.com/podcast. That's Indeed.com/podcast. Terms and conditions apply. Need a hiring hero? This is a job for Indeed Sponsored Jobs.
Year 2, you took your licks, you took your chops, you have been welcomed to the NFL. Now let's get to work. I think Cam Ward would have been the first overall draft pick this year ahead of Mendoza as well. And that's how good he can be. I think that's how good of a player he has or prospect he is. And I believe in Cam Ward, but I'm hoping last year wasn't a stain on what he'll be. Big fan. I believe he outplayed his production for the most part, nearly beat San Francisco in the second half of last year. So we'll see. The next QB, though, on my list, this year's first overall draft pick, Fernando Mendoza. I don't know what nickname he'll have, but this dude's fun. This dude's fun to watch. I think he's more in that Kirk Cousins tier of quarterback. That's his ceiling, in my opinion, which is never a bad place to be. Kirk was good enough to win games, good enough to go to the playoffs, and I think that Mendoza is more of a motivator than Cousins was. He does have more of that, you like that mentality, you like that kind of aura around him. And I think that can actually help lift offenses up, even if he isn't the reason they're winning football games the majority of his career. But I do think he has more to offer than quarterbacks, say, like the next guy on our list, that being Tyler Shough of the New Orleans Saints. Older prospect, but still promising. I think he kind of surprised some folks last year. He can play in the NFL. Maybe a little more grizzled than you'd want from a young quarterback, but somebody who the Saints, I think, view as a young bridge. Not going to be a guy you want to hang around for a decade or so, but somebody who you wouldn't mind being your QB for 4 to 5 seasons. Then after his rookie deal, you find the guy, you move on. But Shough is good, man. He's a guy I can see taking a career path similar to those that get in the NFL, get a chance to start, kind of like Kirk Cousins, where they play out their rookie contract. They maybe jump ahead of a young quarterback ahead of them. In his case, Spencer Rattler, out play him for the job, get the job. Then after the 4th year's done, the Commanders, at the time the Redskins, couldn't re-sign Cousins. He then goes to Minnesota. Could you not see Tyler Shough taking the exact same path where he plays well, proves himself and gets a nice payday, goes plays elsewhere, and is just a nice, solid, above average, good quarterback that maybe isn't somebody you want to be your franchise guy, but is somebody you want to be a nice steady piece in that room and bring you more consistency than not. I can see him going to a team down the road like the Buccaneers, like the Cardinals. I can see him going to a team maybe when it's all said and done like the Rams. Maybe later when Joe Burrow maybe wants out of Cincinnati, going to Cincinnati and bringing them some consistency. And it's a nice, like, I'm comfortable with you playing quarterback. I don't love it. Sometimes I do. I wish we had better, but I don't hate what we have in front of us. And I think Shough does have the potential to be a good quarterback in the NFL for a long time, similar to what Mendoza, I think, can be, to what Kirk Cousins could be, what Derek Carr was for a while with the Las Vegas Raiders, and kind of finds himself in that nice, comfortable tier quarterback. The next guy, though, I have a lot of questions, but there is some promise. And that is New York Giants quarterback Jackson Dart. Can you stay healthy, Jackson? Can you avoid concussions? Can you protect yourself? Can you not go the RG3 route? Can you... And look, I'll be honest here. I don't think Jackson Dart has franchise quarterback ability. I don't think Jackson Dart, if I'm predicting the future, will be the Giants quarterback in the next 4 seasons. I think he'll be gone by the end of his rookie deal. That's just me. But I don't mind being proven wrong. I don't mind being told, wow, you missed that one. Jackson Dart has the arm. He has the legs. And I believe with now John Harbaugh in place, now has the structure to finally take a breath. Hopefully Abdul Carter isn't calling him out on Twitter anymore, but still, I do think Jackson Dart has a bright future, but I don't know if he'll actually reach that future. Lot to like, lot to question, though. Next guy, Malik Willis, was in a really bad quarterback class headlined by Kenny Pickett. Went to Tennessee. It was a disaster. Gets to Green Bay and shows a lot of spark, a lot of fight, a lot of grit to his play. Now in Miami. Love that move for them. Jeff Hafley gets his quarterback he had in Green Bay as the defensive coordinator. That team is terrible around him. I can see this being a bad year for the Dolphins all around, but as the Dolphins attempt to rebuild their stock, they get some more draft picks involved. They can sign some more free agents later. I think by year 2 or 3 of Willis on the Dolphins, you will start to see the benefit of a quarterback like him. He's mobile as all get out. I think having played with LaFleur under Love, you did see him kind of grow into being an NFL quarterback. And I really do like what Willis has from a skill standpoint. But I think it could look really bad the first couple of years simply because around him is not great. It's Devon Achane, and that's kind of it. And that can really destroy and change the way we as fans see quarterbacks. It can destroy how ownership groups and GMs see quarterbacks, and I'm hoping that Willis can rise above that in Miami, because I do think he has a higher ceiling than, say, Jackson Dart, then Mendoza, then Shuck, then Mac Jones, then Daniel Jones, then Kyler Murray, then other guys on this list, because the skills from a physical standpoint are there. But I think if it gets ugly in Miami, he may find the taint. Probably shouldn't say it like that, but there may be some ugliness that follows. I guess I'll word that. Don't cut me out saying the taint, please. That was meant to be a very PG version of that word, but we continue. The next person, the final person on this list, you may not see him for darn near half a decade, but that is Ty Simpson of the Los Angeles Rams. The dude can process. He's got a good enough arm. The accuracy always isn't there. He ain't that mobile, but in the right system, which is what the Rams have, and then McVay is still there come in 2028, 2029, Simpson can be good. I just don't know if the Jordan Love career path is what he deserves. I think sitting for a year can do him wonders, but sitting for 2 or 3 years might hinder his growth as a quarterback. That depends on Stafford's longevity, but I do like Ty Simpson. I would love him more in Minnesota, maybe battling with McCarthy and Murray, than playing behind Stafford from a getting to see him play point of view. But I think him being towards the bottom of the list of promising prospects, because we ain't going to see him play likely for the next 2 to 3 seasons, makes the most sense. But I do think the Rams do have a nice, solid B-tier quarterback prospect that has a higher ceiling than, say, Tyler Shuck does. But then there is the serviceable quarterbacks, and we'll go fast here because we have ayahuasca man himself, Aaron Rodgers. I'm shocked he came back, but if he wants to end his career in the fire pit of Mike McCarthy, by all means, go ahead. I thought about putting him in volatile, but I do think right now at this point in time, he's serviceable. He's not great. Sometimes he ain't even good, but he's not going to be trash. He's not going to, damn your season. I think he's fine. I think Aaron Rodgers is going to be a Hall of Famer, rightfully so. But I think you are seeing the last year of a quarterback that is on his last legs, and I think finds himself in a similar tier, in the exact same tier, in almost exact same conversation as Kirk Cousins. Now, Cousins has the Achilles injury, and now he's the Raiders quarterback. Will he start? Will he back up? Who knows? But I think Cousins and Rodgers are older quarterbacks that can offer a little bit to a team, but they're not your future. They're not even your 2027. And I think the Raiders already kind of told us that with Mendoza's pick after the signing of Cousins, but I'm shocked Pittsburgh didn't try to find a quarterback, whether it's this offseason, via free agency, like Malik Willis, or draft the guy like Ty Simpson, albeit he went 13 overall. But even getting Shuck 2 years ago, like the reliance on a guy like Rodgers doesn't make sense to me, but for 1 year, he ain't going to kill you. The next guy is Tua Tagovailoa, the left-hander. Tua is like near trash for me, but the dude is like Cousins, like Rodgers, probably under Rodgers, but he's fine. Sometimes Tua is deadly accurate. Most of the time, he's just kind of like, who starts with the Falcons? Tua? Okay. He'll win you 6 games a year. It's serviceable. Not good. Not always going to be the reason you lose, but rarely going to be the reason you win. Some days he'll surprise you, but he's not somebody you love. The next guy, Geno Smith, horrible last year. I don't think that is indicative of who Geno Smith is as a quarterback, but it's the Jets. There's some off-the-field stuff now, I guess, with him, but bottom-tiered, serviceable quarterback, a guy you're like, you're not the answer. You know you aren't the answer. We know you're not the answer. We didn't find a quarterback we like this year. Can you get us to next year and not be the worst quarterback in football? That feels like Geno Smith. The Jets, I think, have a better roster than the Raiders had last year, but by all means. The prime Seattle Geno is long gone. Next guy, Jacoby Brissett wants an extension. I don't know what they pay serviceable quarterbacks nowadays. It's a varied tier, obviously, between Rodgers, Cousins, Tua, Geno, and now Jacoby Brissett. I like Jacoby, but there is a very hard cap to what he can do for you. He's in the Geno Smith tier for a reason of don't kill us, but by God, I cannot wait to get out of this because you are not an anchor, but you ain't helping us float. You are just kind of there. You are a placeholder if there was any other word for placeholder. Like you are the guy that when they say backup depth QB who starts for a year because you couldn't find a solution to quarterback in the offseason, it is Jacoby Brissett. Next guy, same dude, career backup for a reason, basically, now that he's in his 30s or late 20s. Marcus Mariota fits the Commanders' offense, not going to lift you up, not going to win you games, but as a similar traits quarterback to what Jaden Daniels have, albeit to a lesser degree. Okay, there's Marcus Mariota. Fine. Next dude, last guy in the serviceable tier is Jameis Winston. Big arm, good locker room dude, good leader from what it seems like nowadays. Not when he was younger, obviously, but good vibes, big arms, a lot of turnovers, but shockingly can actually win you some games, but also lose you the majority of the games he plays. He'll score 45 points. He'll go 30 touchdowns, but he'll also give you 30 interceptions. This dude is the epitome of let it fly. And that can pay off. And that can also sink your ship better than you can think, but he is better than trash. I think Jameis deserves more respect than trash, but our trash tier, not going to spend too much time, is headlined by Joe Flacco. He's old. He played great football last year, but I don't know, man. Like, he can't move. He's a sitting duck. He got a big arm still, but it's Joe Flacco is your quarterback. You're probably winning 4 games next year, is how I'll word that. Next guy, I had high hopes at one point in time, but it seems like it's over. That is Anthony Richardson. Big arm, not accurate, can't stay healthy. I don't know what you want to do. This dude needs a career rehabilitation like Darnold, like Baker got. This dude needs to just sit for the next 3 years and learn and grow and hopefully maybe become the next Geno Smith. Guy who you're like, wow, it can be great, to, oh my God, he's horrible, to, okay, actually isn't that bad anymore. And maybe at some point in time becomes a nice placeholder quarterback for a franchise. The next couple of guys, I think it's pretty clear who they are. Michael Penix, not a fan. Don't think it's going to work. I think the Falcons have to find a way to move on immediately. Next to Justin Fields, similar career, although somehow more successful than Penix and Richardson, but those guys, to me, at least have the chance to grow. Fields is who he is. Not accurate, not a good passer. He's a running back playing quarterback, and that can win you some games and surprising people, but is not really what you want. We'll see how he looks in Kansas City, but I'll be shocked if they are a 5-win team if Mahomes is not back. If Mahomes is back by week 1, then we'll see what happens. But if Mahomes ain't back till week 5 and week 10, I'll be shocked if the Chiefs are above 500 with Fields playing quarterback. The next guy, J.J. McCarthy, 9, if you will. Don't love him. Think he has talked himself kind of into being a backup quarterback. I think he has a skill set. I think he does fit in, Vikings offense, but too many mistakes, too many injuries. It's like your career has been trending downward since the day you took the field, but he has won some nice games against the Bears and against the Lions. Like there has been like little tiny spurts of like, oh, I get it, but few and far between. I think the dude needs to have a better mentality. I don't think the Vikings have done him any favors in protecting him. Got hurt his rookie season, came back last year, kind of had some gritty games, but it just doesn't, it seems very fake. Like he's like faux McCarthy, if you will. Then rounding out the last 2 quarterbacks are Shedeur Sanders and Dylan Gabriel. I'm not going to waste my time. Both these dudes suck. They're not good. Peter Sanders is not good. Dylan Gabriel's not good. I thought Gabriel could actually show some things last year. Got a chance, didn't do much. It was like 200 yards and 1 touchdown and 1 pick. And sometimes it wasn't touchdowns. There was no elevation there. Hitter was better, but I don't get it. This dude has more social media fans than anybody I've seen because of his last name. He has done nothing to earn the success he has or the pedigree on social media. And I'm not rooting against him by any means, but he ain't done much. He did nothing last year to make me say, wow, you're different than any other Browns quarterback ever. It was like, yeah, this is a Browns quarterback. Why? Because they all suck. But that is your 2026 NFL starting with some backup quarterback tier ranking list. Matthew Stafford's number 1, Brock Purdy's number 8. Drop your thoughts down below in the comments. Do you think I'm accurate? Do you think I'm wrong? Tell me where, tell me why, tell me how. And please follow us on social media at 49ers_access is the X or Twitter. 49ers.access is the Instagram, and use our promo code 49ersaccess, 49ERS ACCESS at SeatGeek.com to save yourself $20 off your first purchase. As always, my name is Sterling Bennett, and until next time, training camp is less than a month away. Couldn't say that until now, but I cannot wait to see it live and in person and watch the Snyder team get back to work. But until then, my name is Sterling Bennett, and as always, stay faithful.